Here we go. Your special ultra attacks have hit if the opponent is at this attack's maximum range plus 2 power. I understand that this is referred to as like tippers in platform fighters, especially Smash, regarding characters like Marth. Okay, mostly Marth. So note that this can be ordered before and after other hit triggers. So we're going to see some of that come in, because you can already see hit trigger with movement, hit trigger with movement. So basically, this is gonna yeah, at some point during the hit timing window, if the opponent's at your maximum range plus 2 power. Alright, so this obviously is going to change how we evaluate attacks. So we actually have no idea how much power budget is on the ability, because we have to first look at the character's like attack shapes and power values. So we will go, I typically like to go in speed order, so we'll do that. Propeller Pull, 1, 2, 4, 2, 6 guard. Okay, so speed 2, 6 guard, this is a sweep light. Before you may pull 2. Alright, so this is a sweep like that is range 1 to 4. If this move the opponent past you, they must discard a card at random. Alright, so this is kind of interesting, because like this means if you let me get a dummy over here. If you're here or here, then it has sweeps. Sweeps hit effects, but only for damage. Here it has neither. Here it has the damage. Oh no, okay, sorry. Here it has damage. Here it has damage. Here and here it has the hit effect. So basically this is the strongest at range 1, right? Because you pull 2, they discard a card at random, and you get your tipper. So starting at range 1 is where it's best. At range 2, you have a choice where you may pull 2, or you can hit them for 6. At 3, you probably pull 2 and hit them for 4. And at 4, you probably pull 2 and hit them for 6. This is flexible. The fact that it's an optional pull is kind of a big deal. It's not super common. Like, to have that big a movement-based decision to make during a strike. And it's like, this is overall a little less powerful than sweep, but hits wider range, is more consistent, more flexible. Also, sweep's a really good card. So nothing to sneer at here. That said, it is fairly clear that these are directly connected to each other, where it's like, this would be a this would just be a mediocre attack, if not for the character ability. So clearly the character ability is contributing something here. I'm going to come back to the boosts, actually, because I want to get through the attacks first, just for the purpose of figuring out where the character ability stands. Alright, so attack, solid, middle of the road, not amazing, but good. Cannonball, 4 to 6, 4, 3 with 3 guard. This is a very weird shape. This is arguably a mid-speed fireball. It's kind of a janky one though. Like as fireball shapes go, this is weird. It has an unusually tight range band of 4 to 6. It has power 4 unless it's actually power 6, because it has hit push up to 1 and draw a card. So at range 5 or range 5 or 6, then this is 6 power, which makes it actually a mid-speed projectile. Yeah, so it's not printed like a mid-speed, but it's a mid-speed. Speed 3 also sells that, and then 3 guard is okay. Sometimes you can survive a fast poke. Let's see, Rage has been previewed now, right? So like you can survive a Lobelia or an Aria of the Winds or whatever. It also makes it a canonical cross counter. At range 1, it hits cross for 4. At range 2, it hits cross for 6. So this is a cross counter that is really more of just a mid-speed fireball. After advance 1 or 2 is kind of interesting. Suggests that the character does not actually want to hang out at range. We will see about that. This kind of printed stat line, especially with the ignore armor, would normally be 5. That it can swing 6 is pretty good. Oh, this attack does a job. The job is you have long-range ignore armor. Your opponent can't block your projectile. That's non-trivial, right? And even if they're at range 4, you have ignore armor, which means this is from starting positions an option that kills block. You can't just defend against this guy with block at starting positions. It also beats sweep from starting positions. Push 1 and then advance 1. This is actually a deceptively good card, I think. It's a very weird shape, and it's a little hard to parse. Um, but I think that's actually a pretty good card. Similar, but maybe only just above this one. Alright, Headwind. So 3 to 4, 1, 5. Alright, so here's our speed 5 projectile. So he's got a mid speed, a long range sweep, which isn't really a projectile, but it hits at range 4, and then this is our speed 5 at range 4. So this guy has all the opener options. 3 to 4, 1, 5. So at range 4, it's 3 power. Before range 1 and 2, push 2 and gain +2 power. Okay, so we once again see the theme of, like, as printed, it's a little weak, but it has unusual flexibility. So, like, a 3 to 4, 3, 5 would be a little subpar as projectiles go, with no text, right? At range 2, this actually becomes a, what, 2, 5, 5? Yeah? Because you push 2, gain +2 power, and then you get another +2 power. So, like, 2, 5, 5 is a good stat line. It's not amazing, but it's very good. And then at 1, it's 1, 3, 5, which is terrible. Except that it pushes to range 3, which, I don't know, maybe you want that. Doesn't beat focus, doesn't beat sweep, so meh. So this has best ranges of 1 and 4. This has best ranges of 2 and 4. This has best ranges of 5 and 6. Headwind is good, specifically just because it's a above curve projectile that works in opening positions, so it's often going to be free. I rank that a little higher than these. It's still not amazing as far as the value you get out of it, though. Like, just kind of poking the opponent for 3 once is nice, but not super amazing. Alright. What do we got next? Saber Lunge. 1, 3, 2, 6. Hit advance 4, then choose 1. Alright, so hit advance 4. That is a hit effect. So if you start at range 3, or if you start at range 2, and then end at range 3, you will have 4 power. So mostly this is a speed 6 4 power attack, which is fine. Like that's good. That's not amazing. At range 1, it is a 2 power attack, but it beats sweep because it advances out of range. Also beats focus. At range 2, it beats focus but not sweep, and it's 4 power. At range 3, it beats neither, and is 4 power. So this has the amusing property of always losing to spike if you start within ranges 2 or 3. It's kind of interesting. So advance 4, then choose 1. Either gain advantage or gain after return this to your hands. Yeah, so this is this little prancing stab that he does in the source material. And it's recurable. So obviously being recurable is good, being a fast card is good. We have seen that he has at least 1 power boost, and we can glimpse that he's got a couple others, although one of them is on this card. So this is fast, it's above curve, or on curve, or it's a range 1, cross, essentially. So this is a great card with a lot of utility. Doesn't do anything amazing as far as, like, closing games out, but it's a fast card, so it can convert power to damage pretty efficiently. I like this card. I think it's less safe than Headwinds, obviously, in return for, like, having more overall utility. So I put it like half a step above Headwinds. I'm starting to feel like all these are pretty close together. Let's see how the boosts compare in bed. So, here's our force special. Okay, so this costs a force. 117. Doesn't have a hit effect, so that is 137, right? So that's just baked in. Like, the character ability is just there, like, to tell you to read this card correctly. It doesn't interact with anything on the card other than the Prince of Power is alive. Alright, so 137, after advance up to 3, clean up, add this to your boost areas, and use boost sustain it. So it's Grasp, except instead of moving the opponent, it moves you. So it's a Grasp that beats Focus. That's kind of it. Notably, because that's an after movement and not a hit movement, it can be used to dodge stuff that you normally wouldn't be able to dodge. So it dodges like Cross, even though it hits like Grasp. Excuse me. This is fine, but, like, honestly, this thing is barely on par in terms of its stats with the ability. So this doesn't really impress me as far as what the ability adds. The same is true here. The same is true here. These two are the ones that are, like, they would be subpar with the ability. Sorry, they would be subpar without the ability. With the ability, they feel good. These would all feel, to me, quite bad without the ability. And with the ability, they feel adequate. You might be wondering, like, wait, I'm talking about these like they're better. Why are these higher on the power picture graph? This one shouldn't be. That's just my mistake. These, I value speed really highly. I also value like options at common ranges. Cannonball is a very, it's a range 4 to 6 card. Like, that means this thing is not probably going to come up very often, except against other characters who have ranged options. And based on all this guy's other cards, you're not going to be at long range for very long, right? So Cannonball seems kind of niche. So it's a good card, actually, deceptively good card. But I don't know how often you actually get to use it. Whereas Saber Lunge, very clearly, you can use whenever you want to, and you can even get back. And then Headwind, you'll probably just throw out from open positions as a fast poke. So I value it in particular as an opener. I don't value Cannonball as much as an opener, even though it's definitely relevant, because it beats block and cross. Like, having Cannonball is a big deal. I don't know how often I actually play it. But, like, we can see that, like, these three in particular creates a opening game that makes it very scary to play against this guy. You play block or cross, you die to this. You play dive to cover this, you lose to this. And you lose harder to this, or like you trade worse to this, right? Focus mitigates everything, but doesn't beat anything. Sweep beats nothing at all. Dive only beats Cannonball. So yeah, his opening game is really good, and so these all kind of tie to each other very closely. That's why I'm putting them all pretty close together. His character ability doesn't feel like it contributes a lot to the value of this kit. It's just like, okay. A lot of these have stats that are not bad instead of having stats that are bad. And it's nice. Ultras. Hold on, where do I buy this thing? So it's one force for a really good positioning control effect, which can often let you dodge projectiles and stuff. But it never gives you gauge, but it always gives you a boost. Notably, that's a cleanup effect. Cleanup effects cannot be stun. Like, well, you can be stunned if... Sorry. Cleanup effects don't care about stun, is what I should say. Like, it doesn't matter if you're stunned, your cleanup effects happen. So, this will always turn into a boost if it is your attack. It's not a very impressive boost, though. It's a 1 power boost. So yeah, this actually doesn't feel like it's meant to be an attack at all. There's not much reason to hit with this, and it feels like it's a lot less safe to hit with it. You probably want to play this at range 4 in order to evade whatever the heck you want, and then get a free boost. And if your opponent played something that doesn't hit at range 3, then you can get your little extra effect of getting extra gauge if you want to, but then you're spinning a force and also throwing a card from hand of gauge? I don't know. That's expensive, and it's not like we've seen much to indicate that he draws a bunch of cards. He's got 1 card draw here, 1 card draw on the boost, which we'll come back to. This one feels not impressive for being a 4 special. Like, it has utility, but I'm not sure it really progresses him toward winning anything. It's just like an evasive tool. Alright, full broadside. 2 to 4, 6-2, stun immunity. Before, the opponent did not move, push or pull up to 3. Alright, so loses to Assault and Dive. At range 1, loses to Focus. Otherwise does okay against a lot of things. So this is like a late mid game attack basically, or a very late game attack, where once they have certain options exhausted, they may reach a point where they just have no way to answer this, and then it becomes very, very good because you're just hitting them for 8s. That's great. You know, stun immunity is nothing to sneeze at. Stun immunity is excellence. And being able to throw them out to range 4, especially if you can defend with it, means that you can then follow up with your myriad range 4 options. And yeah, if it doesn't hit for 8, it's hitting for 6, which stun immunity 6 is like fine, but definitely not free gauge. So it falls into the gamut of, you know, only really good because of ability. with respect to all these other things, he clearly is good at hitting if he wants to, right? He is above curve, stupidly good range, good range. So, like, he's gonna get gauged without too much difficulty. But, like, this is one of his less certain ways of confirming damage from what I can tell so far. Yeah, so. It seems okay, but solidly middle of the pack. Excuse me. Alright, launcher. 4-3-7, hit pull 3, gain advantage. Hit pull 3, okay, so. But, like, it's range 4 exactly, which means just like with Swoop, this isn't a 3 power attack, it's a 5 power attack. So 4-5-7, hit pull 3, gain advantage. 4-5-7 is quite a good stat line. The fact that it pulls is actually kind of sane as far as the bouncing goes, because that means you can play Sweep into it, right? Like, you actually can trade with this move if you know it's coming, and if you have a Sweep. It still beats Focus, because Focus doesn't move, right? You can't pull Focus, which means that Focus just takes the damage, and then it's your turn again. Maybe you throw another Launcher at them. So Launcher is very good. We will once again probably see some of my bias toward fast things, because I think this is clearly better than Full Broadside, because it's super reliable, fairly cheap, and gives you advantage, so it doesn't even cost a turn. I don't think this is a defensive tool, which a lot of above curve things are. Like, above curve things are often defensive tools, but I don't think this one is. The reason for that is, well, it's a range 4 option on a character who has a million range 4 options. Why is your opponent initiating a range 4? If you have 2 gauge in particular, they just shouldn't. So it just doesn't feel like a defensive tool in that case. That's the whole kit. Okay. We don't have any, like, really big outliers here. I feel like Swoop's kind of bad. Or at least kind of very mediocre in most regards. Like, it doesn't do a lot of work. But yeah, so I think character ability is squarely, like, not a lot of value. It's a lot like Cammy's ability, which I haven't talked about Cammy on here yet, but essentially Cammy's ability is just, hey, you need to read your cards differently. The ability doesn't do much by itself. Like, it just says your ranges are all deceptive. And Propeller Knight says your power values are mostly deceptive. So I don't think it contributes a ton, because I think that what it contributes is taken out of the cards to compensate. So it's just like a factor that changes how you read things. Alright, let's look at boosts. So, going once again in speed order. Jetstream, +1 speed before pull 1 or 2. 1 force for +1 speed is not impressive. However, before pull 1 or 2 is effective speed, right? Because you're pulling the opponent closer, which means that if your attack was on curve, it becomes above curve, because your effective range is extended. Which means this is really more like +2 or +3 speed unless your opponent plays Focus. Which, by the way, get screwed by Focus is a prevailing theme in a lot of his things. This stuff's Focus, but can't help but notice none of those like running into Focus. Neither does... No, that one's fine. So not everything, but like 2/3 of his kit. Alright. So, +1 speed before pull 1 or 2. So this, yeah, 1 force for like +2 or 3 speed effectively, and it's a 1 or 2, so you have some positioning control as well. That's pretty darn cool. I consider that actually a very good boost. Like, that's a very good boost. He doesn't have any... This is his melee haymaker, right? But this can potentially screw with people who are hiding in corners. Yeah, it telegraphs things to an extent that might be a little dangerous. Because, you know, if you play something that assumes that the pull will work and they have a Focus, they can just play Focus. But I still think it's very good. I'm going to nudge that up just a little bit. Alright, where's that 3 speed? Quick set. Advance retreat 1, take another action. It's a good boost. It's actually a very good boost. depending on the character. One step of reposition, followed by strike or whatever. Oh, yeah, on that note, I really should have talked about his Exceed before now. Sorry. Most of these... Yeah, most of these don't require... Yeah, me to go over that first. Alright, I'll do the Exceed after this then. Yeah, Quick Step notably combos with his Exceed ability in a very particular way, so I will come back to this once more when I talk about his Exceed ability. But for now, just as a boost, Quick Step is actually very, very good. Like, move 1 second of their action... Yeah, you can hop out of the corner and then backstep out to get to your favorite range of 4 or something. So if you're saving the right options to use with it, it's very good. And in particular, I think it is best at close ranges or at mid ranges, which is where Cannonball is trash. So yeah, this is a very good boost. It bumps the card, you know, up a little more to be like, oh yeah, this is a good card. These both sides of these are good. All right, our next speed is 5. Windstream, Wilson power before push 1 or 2. Alright, so this feels very unsafe actually. So 0 force for 1 power, and then the before push 1 or 2. Notably, this is like fake negative speed, because at range 1 you can't play Grasp, at range 2 you can't play Cross. Right? Or at least you can't hit with them. So that's extremely awkward. Plus, just like before, even if you're like, I'll set this at range 1 and then I'll play Spike, they can still just play Focus and it doesn't work. So I don't like this boost very much actually. It's cute, and it's obviously there's like a symmetry going on here, but I don't think it's good. So really, I would probably just play Headwinds, and that's fine. But I'm gonna nudge that down in the medium slot, or like in between slot of these two. This is all too close together, but I think it kind of reflects how I'm seeing the kit right now, so it's fine. Alright, what's next? Blade Flourish. +1 power, +1 speed, aka Swift. Now if you're at range 2, draw a card. Okay, that is a -1 force cost, essentially, if you're at range 2, which... It doesn't really seem to set up range 2. Very often, he seems more like he sets up... It's more like he capitalizes on 2. But he seems to set up, like, 1 and 4 in particular. I don't know. It's a little hard to tell how often... Like, just from looking at the kit, it's hard to tell how often he actually ends up at range 2. Because clearly he's going to just be where he wants to be based on what he's planning on playing next, because he has a bunch of options. But he likes range 4 a lot. And range 2, meh. So, I mean, he does like it, I mentioned already. It's good for Headwind, it's good for Propeller Pull, but it's also good for Saber Lunge. So notably, this is a boost that is good at the range at which the attack is actually good to play. So it's not like it's filling out the card's weaknesses. And often after playing this card, you will be at range 2. Because you're probably going to be at 2 or 3 if you're not at 4. So, yeah. This is a decent way of leveraging, like, okay, I've gotten enough value out of Saber Lunge, I'm going to try to get a bigger payout with something that's more like a mid-speed, probably. And draw more cards at the same time. I'm not sure how worth it that is, but that is clearly a good boost. It keeps the card, like, above par, in my opinion, in terms of what it contributes. But it doesn't really bring it up to Launcher, as far as just being super, super good. Because, like, the thing that would probably benefit the most from Blade Flourish... I'm not even sure what it is. You'd think it'd be Headwind, except you're passing the turn, which means the opponent can initiate with a speed 6 card and Headwind still loses. You'd think it might be Cannonball, except you're obviously not at close range when you have a Cannonball up. If you play Blade Flourish at long range, that's still fine, but then Cannonball is only speed 4, so it still loses to dive. Propeller Pull now beats Sweep cleanly, depending on what range you start at. That's worth noting. Well, you'd be at 2, right? So you'd be at 2, and you'd have a speed 3, power 7. You just don't pull them. That's good. I don't think the opponent is super likely to initiate at range 2 with sweep when you have that. And the spike. Spike is always good as a threat, not necessarily good as an attack. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good boost. It's not amazing, like, but specifically because of the kit that it's in. He doesn't have a ton of massive power things that he wants to confirm with extra speed. He has a lot of speedy things that he would like to have more power to throw on, and he just doesn't really seem to have a lot. Even though that's a power number, that's a power number, that's a power number. 1, 1, 1. Going up the chain, by the way, let's look at this one. So +1 power, now if you're at range 3, you may add a card from your hand or your gauge. I mentioned this already, of course, because, like, the attack becomes a boost, so you have to read the boost. Yeah, so if you hit, then you're sacrificing a gauge in order to get a +1 power boost, which is not very good. If you didn't hit, this could be very good, actually. The boost on this is the boost on this is interesting because I'm not sure you're often going to be that desperate for gauge, because so this is if you're at range 3. If you're at range 3, neither of these are, like, favored to do anything. Launcher doesn't hit. Broadside doesn't do much, you know. Broadside loses the same things that it would normally lose to. It doesn't get a lot of extra coverage. It doesn't really, yeah, it doesn't become more impressive is what I'm trying to say. So 3 is a strange range to decide you can throw a card from your hand to your gauge for this. And it's also not a very safe range. Like, if swoop is going to range 3, then it means the opponent didn't play a, you know, spike or a sweep or anything else that hits range 3 with guard. So yeah, the other aspect of this is just that you had to pay a force to play the card. So swoop is, yeah, it's still just there to be an evasive option. I'm not even sure that the boost is useful. I do think that if I was at range 3, I would not normally want to play Rose Toss as a boost from hand. I would want to play swoop. No, that's not true. I wouldn't want to play swoop. Like, at range 3 it covers dive and spike. It's still, you still lose to assaults and sweep. So it's like, I'm not sure it's worth paying the force on this particular force special. I certainly value that I can invalidate it though. So often won't do me any good. And it's a very good anti-projectile maneuver, no doubt about that. Like, that's the huge value here, is that at range 4+, you can use this to duck inside projectiles. Not sure he needs to, but you can. I'm really not sure he needs to when I think about this thing. This is actually a, you know, goes up to range 7 if your opponent's throwing predictable projectiles. Alright, let's look at the exceed. 2 gauge. 2 gauge is a small number. 2 gauge often means that you're expected to exceed. Like, your engine doesn't really kick in until you exceed. So Propeller Knight does this, Plague Knight does this, Guile does this. Or it can mean that your exceed is very situational, and you just don't want to do it every game. I think Propeller Knight does that, and I know Ryu does that. When you exceed, advance retreat up to 2. So you get a move up to 2 effect, which is like a move action but better, because you can move over your opponent with it. That, you know, has a magnitude of 2 and you cost 2 gauge to flip. So you're actually getting value right there. Of just, I wanted to spend the force for a move action that I can get better. And then you just have the exact same type of clause, and then as an action you may advance, retreat 1, then strike. That's good. Yeah, so it's obviously worth exceeding. He's clearly one who's, like, designed to exceed, because you get that movement effect, and then you now have the option to reposition slightly and then strike, which means all of your, like, slightly range-sensitive shenanigans of literally all of these get a lot better because they become more reliable. And this boost, by the way, gets notably better because you can move 1, then move 1, then strike, which can change the range and therefore all of the combat calculations in a hurry. You know, if you boost +2 speed and the opponent goes to range 1, you're like, well, now I'm at range 2, now I'm at range 3, and now I'm playing Spike. So you can cross long range if you want to, but guess what? Like, now you're at long range, and if you're not a ranged character, I'm gonna draw my other Cannonball at some point, so. Exceed seems good. Character ability seems, like I said, like it's kind of baked into the attack shapes, so it doesn't provide extra value of any sort, it's just sort of there. Exceed also feels like it's designed to make the whole kit work and make him less awkward than he would be otherwise. Because he doesn't have a lot of... Oh, I skipped these 2 boosts. Excuse me. Let's go over those first. Speed order, right? Full broadside. Private reserve. Search your discard pile for continuous boost and play paying all costs, then shuffle your discard pile. If you're wondering behind... alright, never mind. There's a whole story behind the shuffle discard pile thing. I'm not a fan of it, but whatever. Hello, Helios. The reason it's there is so that you don't have to worry about whether you put the cards back in the right order. It's literally just a matter of, well, now you don't have to track. That is the design reason. But the point is, search your discard pile for continuous boost. You may play at paying all costs. So, continuous boost. That's good. That's good. A little bit weird to throw an ultra on getting a 0. Wait, paying all costs, paying all costs, paying all costs. I parsed that wrong. Okay, the only one of these that I would even care about possibly recurring is Blade Flourish. So, like, if I'm low on gauge, I would be happy to boost Private Reserve to get a Light or a Blade Flourish. Or maybe a Fierce, depending on what I'm ready to throw out. But, yeah. So I think in practice, I'm usually going to boost this, just because Launcher is so much easier to get value out of. So, like, I would boost this to get either speed power or speed. And then I save my gauge to connect with 2 launchers, and then somehow get them back in my deck to connect with 2 more launchers later. You know, launcher seems very good. Yeah, the attack is not reliable, although it's not bad, so I probably prefer to boost this. So even though the boost is like spinning an ultra to play a continuous boost from your discard, and you still have to pay the cost, it feels extremely mediocre, and is definitely feels overcosted. I'm actually fine with it, just because I'm not sure he clearly doesn't need the force thanks to his character ability. This ability specifically, his Exceed ability, excuse me. But yeah, I'm also not sure it gives him a ton of value. Anyway, I still like it though. I still think it's clearly good for him. Not quite this level though. And then fly up, move to any space. Alright, so 1 force on an ultra, so you need to be moving at least 4 spaces, or at least 3 spaces crossing the opponent, for this to be cost effective. It's extremely annoying, right? Because you can jump from one end to the other. And by the way, this boost named Fly Up is mimetic, due to like Season 4 development involving a bunch of characters having variations on this boost. And then eventually, most of them went away. Or at least most of them were tuned down massively. Enchantress still has Dark Strafe. Propeller Knight still has Dashing Through. Shovel and Shield still have quick switch or quick swap or something like that. But like, they're not as quote unquote free as this, which is the 1 force ultra boost to just move anywhere. Jeffrey from 7th Cross has this boost, by the way. Except that his also has a recursion clause, so his is actually even better. How much does Propeller benefit from this, right? If he establishes full board, he's at range 7. Nothing hits. But he can step forward and Cannonball you. Which, like, if you cross out, whatever you're crossing out, you can also throw this boost in, where, like, you focus or you eat the Cannonball subsequently. I don't know, I guess then you would assault him. Ah, that's kind of weird. Or no, dive. Because you start at range 7, and he pulls you 1 at 6, so you'd have to be 3 spaces forward. Yeah, so you need dive to cover that specific line. Yeah. It mostly seems like it's just there to give him time to draw into the stuff that he needs to execute. So, like, he's down 2 cards in hand, he does this to buy time. and then you either chase him or you do stuff of your own, right? I doubt he would ever use it to go into melee, because he just has good anti-projectile tools. They don't work at range 8, but I don't see him going to range 8 very much. Except specifically when he's against someone who doesn't have projectiles and he needs to recover. I don't think this boost is worth using over Launcher. I think if you can use Launcher, you should. Like, very free 5 damage and advantage. Incredibly fast. Doesn't lose to focus, notably. So if they're out sweeps, it's probably just extremely free. Yeah. Alright. So I did kind of interrupt myself, but I'm not sure there's much more to say about his Exceed ability. Is like, okay, he can take some of his range, like his specific range requirements, and expand them out a little bit, which makes things a lot more viable. I think if his normal ability is barely worth mentioning, because it's just how you read your attacks changes, his Exceed ability is like clearly a step or two better. I'm gonna just expand things a little bit there. Yeah, I'm not sure it's quite that dramatic, but it's kind of close. For simplicity's sake, I'll line things up like that. He might be not quite that high, but the kicker as well, the when you exceed effects, means that there's just not much reason not to exceed unless you're absolutely in a position to threaten Launcher right that minute. But, you know, you'll get more gauge. Above curve poke, on or above curve thing, all the range in the world. You'll be fine. Alright. Did I forget anything? Don't think so. So there's my power budget review / assessment of Propeller Knight.